So the fans of the city sounding off as we welcome you back inside our Midtown studios. I'm Gary Apple, and there is a new book out. It's called In My Rear View Mirror. Back in the day, the games the athletes played on and off the field. It's written by the venerable Sal Marchiano, 40 years, WCBS, WNBC, WABC, ABC Sports, ABC Radio, and now at Channel 11. Good to see you, Sal.
Good to see you, Gary.
Always
and
great to be
original
with you.
cast of the ESPN when they began.
Yes, indeed, which in many ways is the title of the book, is it not?
They fired me after 3 years because I said something innocuous. I said, happiness is Bristol in my rearview mirror. They didn't get the joke. They fired me.
Mr. C from Hot 97's here along with Frank Isola, Scotty Farrell, Sirius Satellite Radio. You have experience.
Everybody gets fired.
I do want to get into the book in a moment, but while you're here, and again, you've been around this town for a long time, not to age you, because you do look good, Sal. I mean, you continue to pull it off.
Clean living.
Yes,
Clean
indeed.
living, right?
So what do you make of this collapse by the Mets?
That's the worst thing I've seen in years. I can't measure it against anything except the 64 Phillies. Obviously, they're taking the apple. I mean, they've led all year.
Literally.
I checked last night. On May 27th, they were 15 games above 500. Since then, they're 55 and 53. And so when Parcells, as Parcells says you are what your record is, they're a 500 team.
It's a good picture in the book of you and Gil Hodges. So you were around when Gil was managing the '69 Mets, tremendous year here in New York. He was a quiet leader, and in some ways, Willie, outwardly at least, is a quiet leader. Can you compare and contrast the two gentlemen?
Well, Gil Hodges was my boyhood hero. Matter of fact, in '69, I was on the road with the Mets in St. Louis. The day that night, Steve Carlton struck out 19 Mets with Bo to beat him with 2 home runs. That day in the elevator, Gil says to me, "Why are you nervous around me when you interview me?" I said, "Well, you were my guy. I kept notebooks on you. I used to call your house when you said hello. I'd hang up. You know, I was at Ebbets Field every day, and that's one of the reasons why I wrote this book. In My Rearview Mirror is not only about the 40 years that I've covered sports in New York. Once upon a time, you know, there was no cable, and there was only 3 stations. I worked for all 3 of them.
We'd all be out of a job right now.
And a lot of stuff happened here. I mean, within 17 months, the Jets, the Mets, and the Knicks won first-time championships. And you put that against the backdrop of Joe Namath retiring from football, double-parking the networks because Rozelle said he had to divest his interest in a bar. You had Tug McGraw beating alcoholism, and you have Dave DeBusschere, who came out of Detroit. I have his view of the Knicks winning championship. In the middle of that, you had Woodstock. You had Man Walking on the Moon. The Ali Frazier fight at the Garden. I wrote all about this in the book because I was fortunate. I was one of a handful of people. I mean, the other reporters in those days, there was Howard Cosell from Channel 7 and Kyle Rote from Channel 4 and Dick Schaap and me.
Wow.
And there was no hordes of interviewers and cameras. It was just us. I went on the road. I went all over the world for ABC and NBC and CBS. Covered a lot of stuff. I saw the Thriller in Manila, which I wrote about. These are all, when you ask me about Gil Hodges, you're talking about one of the main characters of my life, growing up in Brooklyn. My chapter on Brooklyn is about growing up in the Brooklyn of the 40s and 50s, which was an idyllic time, and Hodges was our hero. And, of course, I followed the Dodgers. I went to the last Dodger game was 50 years ago the other night. I was there that night. Danny McDevitt beat the Pittsburgh Pirates 2-0. I made them force me to leave the ballpark. I stood behind home plate until the ushers told me to leave. And when I saw those Dodgers go down a runway for the last time, it broke my heart and everybody else's heart.
You mentioned Cosell. This is one of the legendary figures, iconic figures in sports broadcasting. But he was a sportscaster at Channel 7 here in New York before he hit the big time. What was Cosell like? What was your relationship like as we see a picture of the two of you?
Well, I wrote about 2 broadcasters in My Rearview Mirror, which is available on Amazon.com.
Nicely done. Very nice.
Cosell I worked with because I was his backup on ABC Radio for his daily radio shows, and I was his backup on boxing on TV. The other broadcaster was Marty Glickman, who was my mentor. He mentored dozens of guys. These were the 2 most influential voices in New York at that time.
Well, you know,